Neil Druckmann, how could you do this to me, man? I defended you. I defended you and your artistic choices in my Last of Us 2 review, and now you have gone and just made me look like a complete idiot. I was a naive child when I reviewed The Last of Us 2, but now I am a man who knows the truth. You thought, even for just a second, that you could copy off of Disney's homework and that you just get away with it? That nobody would notice? Well, there's one thing you didn't count on, Neil, and that was me. And I know the truth. And the truth is that The Last of Us 2 is a complete ripoff of the 2003 Disney flop Brother Bear. Okay, let's get serious here for a second. The Last of Us 2 is not a one-to-one copy of Brother Bear. There aren't any zombies in Brother Bear that I can recall, and the only bear in The Last of Us 2 is a dog named Bear, and I don't think that counts. If Naughty Dog needs to be worried about being sued by anyone, it should probably be P.D. James or Alfonso Cuarón for constantly borrowing from Children of Men as opposed to being scared of a Disney lawsuit. And also, my feelings on The Last of Us 2 as a game have not changed at all, so this is not some slander piece or anything like that. I just recently revisited Brother Bear, and in revisiting it, I found a striking amount of similarity, both thematically and emotionally, between Brother Bear and The Last of Us 2, and I thought I'd make a video about it. For fun. What I'm trying to say is, don't take this too seriously. I'm just comparing these two pieces of art for your entertainment only. So, that being said, let's get started. Both Brother Bear and The Last of Us 2 are stories which have the main driving force of revenge. In Brother Bear, a young hunter named Kenai attacks a bear for stealing his fish. The bear overpowers him, and his two older brothers, Sitka and Denahi, rush in to try and save him. When Denahi and Kenai are both in mortal danger, Sitka sacrifices his life in order to save them. The bear manages to survive the attack and escape with its life, and without the guidance of his older brother Sitka, Kenai is left blinded by vengeance. Determined to avenge his brother's death, he sets out on his own to track down and kill the bear that took his brother. The Last of Us 2, while different in some more specific story elements, drives the plot forward with the same event: the loss of an important guiding figure in the main character's life. A young woman named Ellie watches as her father figure Joel is murdered, and without his guidance, she is blinded by vengeance. Determined to avenge Joel's death, she sets out to track down and kill the woman that took him from her. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is just a super basic plot element that's been in countless stories that you could draw comparisons to, and you're right, but this is where things get a little bit more interesting. Continuing forward into Brother Bear's plot, Kenai finally tracks down the bear that killed his older brother, and he attacks it and actually manages to kill it. This awakens the great spirits, and Kenai is magically transformed into a bear. It's stated in a scene briefly after this by a shaman woman named Tanana that this was his older brother Sitka's doing. That this change in perspective, forcing Kenai to become the monster he sought to destroy, is going to teach him a lesson he desperately needs to learn. The Last of Us 2 also uses a now notorious perspective shift halfway through the game. When Ellie finally tracks down the woman who killed Joel, the game suddenly cuts to black and then forces you to play through the days that you just played through, but this time as Abby, the woman that you've been trying to kill the entire game up to this point. And while it isn't outright told to you like it is in Brother Bear, this perspective shift serves the same primary purpose in the story: to teach you a lesson. Kenai's reaction to being turned into a bear is pretty much what a lot of people's reactions were to being forced to play as Abby.
No! All right, bring the sound around. Kenai. This isn't gonna work.
And this is where things get even stranger. Kenai, now a bear, is told to go to the top of a mountain where the lights touch the earth in order to contact his brother Sitka's spirit and hopefully be changed back into a human. He gets caught in a hunter's trap and meets a young bear cub named Coda, who frees him. Kenai then discovers that Coda knows how to reach the mountaintop and has to trek with him across the land. Despite initially being quite resentful of Coda due to his hatred of bears, over the course of their journey, Kenai develops a bond with this young cub and learns to empathize with him, even going so far as to call Coda his younger brother. He then also learns that the bear he killed was Coda's mother, and this leads him to realize that he might have been the real monster of this story all along. He tells Coda the truth about what happened, and the two separate on bad terms. Now, in The Last of Us 2, Abby, in her travels, also gets caught in a trap and is freed by a couple of young children. These children are part of a cult called the Seraphites, who are sworn enemies of the faction that Abby is a part of. One of them, a boy named Lev, ends up going on a long journey with Abby, and despite Abby being initially resentful of Lev, due to her hatred of Seraphites, over the course of their journey, Abby develops a bond with this kid and learns to empathize with him, basically treating him like her younger brother. Now, there's no reveal that Abby killed Lev's mom or anything like that, but her journey with Lev does cause her to question her allegiance to her ideals. The Seraphites may not be the monsters she's been told they are, and yet she's taken so many of their lives. And now we reach the conclusion of Brother Bear's story. A subplot I have not mentioned yet in Brother Bear is that Kenai's surviving brother, Denahi, does not know that Kenai has been transformed into a bear. He instead assumes that the bear also killed Kenai, and this of course sends him into the same cycle of anger and vengeance that plagued Kenai. So the entire time that Kenai has been traveling with Coda, they've been narrowly avoiding attacks from Denahi. And all of this culminates into the final battle, in which Kenai finally reaches the mountaintop, but is attacked by his brother Denahi. He tries desperately to get through to Denahi to make him stop attacking, and when it seems that all hope is lost, Coda rushes in to save Kenai, and despite Coda's best attempts, it appears to be the end for all of them. And in this moment, a vision of Sitka appears, and the truth is revealed. Once the realization hits, the fighting stops, and Kenai chooses to live out the rest of his life as a bear and watch over Coda as his brother. And everyone is briefly reunited with the loved ones that they lost, and the story ends happily ever after. The conclusion of The Last of Us 2 also culminates into one final battle. I'm gonna skip over a lot of things because The Last of Us 2 is long and has a ton of things going on, but basically all you need to know is that after a long journey for both Abby and Ellie, it all comes down to one final battle. Abby and Ellie desperately attack each other, and just as it seems that Ellie is finally going to get her revenge, a vision of Joel appears to her. Once the realization hits, the fighting stops, and Abby takes Lev in a boat and presumably chooses to live out her life watching over him. And unfortunately though, The Last of Us 2 does not have anywhere even close to as celebratory or fulfilling of an ending as Brother Bear does, because Ellie ends up alone and broken as a person, and also can't play the guitar anymore because Abby bit off 2 of her fingers, and there's no clear, happy resolution here. Now, I gotta say that in the comparison of these two stories, there was a lot of generalizing and skipping over plot details for The Last of Us 2. If you watched Brother Bear and then played The Last of Us 2 back to back, you'd get 2 very different experiences. Brother Bear is a very straightforward hour-and-a-half film, and The Last of Us 2 is an extremely scattershot 25 to 30 hour video game. Both are obviously vastly different in tone, Brother Bear being very warm and uplifting, taking place in a very vibrant world, and Last of Us 2 is very bleak and depressing and post-apocalyptic, albeit with faint glimmers of hope. But the thing that I really wanted to talk about, what's most intriguing to me, is that despite these differences, at their emotional and thematic core, these are essentially the same story, both attempting to teach us deep lessons about empathy, to call into question our preconceived ideas about right and wrong, to question our hatred and false perceptions of others.
Those monsters are really scary. Especially with those sticks.
To make us question our actions, the things that we do as a result of these preconceived notions, and to relay to us the importance of putting others' feelings before our own, forcing us to step into the shoes of the villain of our story and attempting to make us understand them, and in turn forcing us to look at our own actions from their perspective. For Kenai, it meant becoming a bear, and for Last of Us fans, it meant playing as Abby. Both use similar narrative devices like perspective shifts and bonding with a younger character to help facilitate this understanding. And both are, oddly enough, also targeted at demographics that don't typically have this challenge challenging of narratives, Brother Bear being a children's movie and The Last of Us being a third-person action-adventure game. It's honestly very strange to me how much these two stories really do have in common, and it's so strange that I spent all this time making a video about it. A video that I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that you got something out of. I just find these comparisons interesting. I don't really have too much more to say about it other than that, but I would love to start a conversation about this, so please leave a comment below telling me your thoughts. Perhaps make this a double feature. Watch Brother Bear, play The Last of Us 2, see if you're feeling the same similarities I am. Whatever you have to say, I would love to hear your thoughts about this, and yeah, like, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff that makes me want to die inside every time I say it, and that's it for me. meeptop out.